Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, if someone in YouTube or Facebook can confirm me, will be nice, please. Okay, I don't see any message. Let's suppose that is working well. So, wait me. Okay, so today's lesson is to talk about the recruitment process and the difference between the companies. Andres, are you here?
Yes, yes, I am.
So Andres will start with this presentation.
Yeah, so basically, the recruitment process starts when you want to get into a company, right? And there are many ways you can get in contact with these persons. They are search and select. It's a process that they do in her end. So the people from the companies, they can do different types of events. Most commonly, they go to the universities in search of new talent, like doing some in campus kind of presentation about the company. They talk to you about the company and they ask you for your resume. And after that, they will start getting all the resumes from your school and selecting the most interesting ones and giving you an offer for an interview, right? But there are other ways. For example, you can go inside of different pages of this company, for example, Facebook recruitment, and you can upload your resume directly to Facebook's. But this is kind of more difficult way to do it because uh, you are competing with more people, right? And you are like not guaranteed that a person is going to see you because most of the time this is an automatic system and no one is going to see your resume unless it's a really interested one. And when they go to your school, they are more likely that a person is going to see it. It's like you have more chances to be noticed. But they are the third method that it's a kind of tricky one. It's like becoming in contact with people by reference, and that means that you know someone that it's currently working in that company, and that person is going to get in contact with the recruitment people, the recruitment crew. So they are going to say like, oh, I know this guy and he's really good, could you offer him an interview? And they are going to say, because they trust a lot of the people, the employees, they are going to offer you an interview most likely. So the next part is the interview. The interview is kind the more standard process in this part, but it is kind of different from company to company. Although it's really common that the interview divides in three parts. We are going to talk more about the different types of interview later on, but let's continue. Yeah, with the types of interview. Well, basically, there are three types of interview, like online assessment, phone interview, and on-site interview, right? Um, so the types of interview all depends more or less of the position you are going to apply. Most of us we are going to apply for software engineering, so that going to be the most important topics you have to know about it. but they are also going to ask things about your personal life. Yeah, that they want to know you more about who you are and what do you like to do, and if you are a fit for this company principles. Like, to make an example, Facebook is or like the big slogan inside the company is like to move fast, not to do things fast. Like, they want to know if you can deliver things quickly and if you are comfortable with this time of situations. And so, well, let's talk a little more about online assessment. Yep. So online assessment is like when they most of the time the interview, they are going to give you uh, a coding problem that you have to resolve. uh, this is going to be mostly like, for example, if you have work in lead code or in HackerRank, they are coding problems around the internet, and they will give you the link and they want you to solve this problem, right? So the code online assessment, uh, it depends on the in the way they are going to do it. Um, but most of the time they also can give you just the description of the problem by email, right? For example, I have made some interviews with Oracle, and the two of them, they were online assessments. They first talk about a little, they interview me by phone, and we're going to talk about that later, but the important part was the online assessment. And what they did was they make a really, how do you say, a really compact description of what the problem was and what was the output, and they give me one response to ask questions if there were any questions. After that, they gave me this. They told me that I could have the any time. I could take a lot of time or few time to resolve the problem, but they want you to tell how much time do you think it will take you to do the problem. And there are two things that are important here to consider. First of all, like, to be true to yourself, because you can say that, yeah, I could do it tomorrow, and maybe you could do it tomorrow, but that would not give you enough time for you to get a clarification about the problem. And also, if you don't clarify the system, it might be too much bug. Yeah. And when you deliver the code, they say, well, that does not work as I intended, that you will fail. So try to give you time. I'll try to give yourself time to understand the problem. And yeah, the other thing that you have to consider is like, uh, try to do it also the fastest way you can, because, well, you can take 3 days, but if you take more than a week, they might be like red flags that you may not work in the as fast as they want. So yeah, that other time of assessments, that they may be like code as a system, and they might be not related to a different challenging problem, like, for example, that the lead codes at HackerRank. They might be more orientated to talk about how would you do how would you do design a program. Like, for example, there might be some people that will be more likely to ask you, like, implement this type of object or class, and how would you do it, like, in another way. Like, if you will get for example, it's very common to when you're working in object pattern, that the all the fields inside the class, they might not be accessed from outside the class. So you are going to do implemented of setters or getters, or how are you going to manipulate the data or encapsulate it. All this kind of information might be handy when you are developing code system. The book code is the third type of online assessment, and, well, that's really straightforward, that they're going to give you some code, but this code might be or incomplete, or might be missing something that it's not working properly. So the description might be this as similar as the coding problem, that they have this description of I want this function to do this thing, but it's not returning, and I have this piece of code. Could you see what is going wrong, or what would you change to do this, to make this work? The yeah, well, I don't know if there are any questions about this first one, but if there is not, I will. If there is any question, I will could answer later. Well, the third uh, type of interview is the most used one. It's a phone interview, and well, although it's called phone interview, this can also be, and mostly is going to be by video chat. Different companies use different software to do this, but most likely is going to be, like Blue Jeans or Teams, Microsoft, for do this kind of phone interview. So, well, at the beginning, it's going to be some presentation, and they want to know you a little bit, but this is going to be just like 5 minutes to present yourself to the interviewer, because the interviewer, most of the time, they don't know you. They are just there to see how do you work out in these kind of situations when you're given a problem, or how do you solve it. So the fun part of this is going to be the coding interview with an online editor. It is important to notice that this online editor, in almost all the cases, it does not have compiling capabilities, meaning that they are not going to check it with a compiler, and they are not going to see if the syntax is right, or if it's going to be buggy because you miss one. Like, for example, if you miss the name of size for length. But it is important to also know that the person that it's interviewing you, they might notice that, and they will um, be very harsh depending of the kind of error. If you miss, for example, the name of a really complicated library, that might be fine, because they are not expecting you to know everything by heart. But if you miss something really, really basic, like in C++, a dot comma termination of that might be wrong. So yeah, although this is not it doesn't have compiler capabilities, the editor does have a syntax highlight. I encourage you, every one of you, to enable that, because it will make easier to you and to the interviewer to see and understand the code you're writing. Also, they will let you use, most of the time, they will let you use any programming language you want, but be aware that if you say in your resume that you are like your only program, or you're the best in C++, they may ask you to write code in C++. So that's why we have told you that don't lie in your resume, because everything in your resume could go back to you in these kind of situations. So well, the code interview will be consisting most of the times in 2 to 3 problems, but it just if the problem is really hard, it may comes just to one, or maybe the problem, it could start with a small problem, and the interviewer could scale it. So yeah, try to practice a lot, and that's why we are encourage you to do a lot of mock interviews, because doing this fast is the most important thing that you are going to face in these interviews, because the phone interview is consistently of an hour, like 45 minutes, and you have only half an hour to solve as many problems as they give you. So practice a lot. The other part of the phone interview is the behavioral questions, and this part may come before the coding interview, and they are going to ask something more or less of the way like, wait, I have this problem. They're going to say you like a hypothetical situation, like, for example, if in your work environment you have a coworker that is not doing anything, what would you do? And what they are going to get about this is like, how would you react to difficult situations, right? Because most of the time, uh, you are going to do to face these problems in real life, and they don't want you to have like a block out or something. So they want to know like you are capable of managing tough situations, and also to get along with other people. They don't want you to be like a really hard person, like get angry because someone is not working and start yelling, but they also don't want you to be a passive one, like, oh, I will do the work from him. At the end of this phone interview, he is going to let you ask something, and this is the last important piece of the interview. It's like the cherry at the top, because if you do well in the call interview and you do well in the behavioral question, the ask something part is just to know like if you're interested in the company, and what you're supposed to ask is something related to the company. Like, for example, if you're applying to Microsoft, you will be really interested in know something maybe about the Windows Lite version. No, like, okay, do you know something about Windows Lite version? That's the rumor that Windows is going to give a light version of his operating system. Moreover, if the when the interviewer gets presented, he's going to tell you where he's working. And if you know something about the area related to the he's working, that BB plus will give plus points to you, because well, when you talk to someone about something he likes or he is doesn't, he will be more empathical with you. So for example, if you are being interviewed by a, say, Microsoft Games engineer, well, you can talk about I don't know, like Halo game and something like that, or Halo games design system, and how do they manage that. He's going to get involved into that. For example, I have one friend that was interviewed by this Facebook engineer who was from Africa, and you may or may not know that Facebook has this plan to get internet to everywhere. So my friend just asked him like, "Oh, I know Facebook have this plan of get internet to everyone. Uh, are you going to be involved in the internet coming to Africa?" And the guy just exploded. Like the interview was 45 minutes, and the guy extended to 1 hour because he was talking too much about how much excitement he has, because he was from Africa and he wants a lot of people to get access to internet back at his town. So yeah, if you get if you nail the questions, it's like a plus for everything you have already done. They are going to see like you are really interested in the company and that you are going to be a good asset. Well, that's for the.
Oh, well, I want to add something more. About the types of interview, we will talk a little bit more in the next lesson in the interview part. But as Andre said, well, this is like a introduction of the parts. So these phone interviews, well, are remote or could be with webcam or without webcam. And well, that's all. The webcam part depends usually in you and the interviewer. Someone's tell you to put it, someone's no. It depends.
Oh yes, yes, that's also important. Like, also, if you don't have good internet connection, most likely they are going to call you by the phone. Um, I have no know anyone that has gone that far, but yeah, be aware that you will need a good internet connection when you get this phone interview,
Well,
because
in my
you're
case,
going
I
to.
have because I have problems
Uh,
with blue jeans at Facebook, but I recovered that. But well, the part of the cell phone, I think is worse because it's a long distance call, so it's horrible to hear and to understand. So try to get a good internet connection.
yes. So well, let's go to the last part. Like, the two last we have shown the online assessment and the phone interview. They mostly are going to be the first type of interview you're having. If you nail these two, you are going to go to the final round, and the final round is most likely without COVID situation to be an outside interview. The on-site interview, it's going to be almost like the phone interview. almost just the difference that you are going to be in real person there. So there, instead of challenging a code editor, you're going to challenge a whiteboard. Well, this is a huge difference because you are going to be missing the highlight syntaxes, and well, you are missing that, but the interviewer might not. So you have to be extra careful with your syntax on the programming language you choose. So that's why you should choose always the more comfortable language, or the most use language you're using the most. Um, on my side, I could recommend Python. If you don't know Python, you should learn Python because they will help you a lot in these kind of situations. Because Python is more a small code, you have to write small things, and you have to remember less words, variables, names, and stuff. So this is going to be helpful because you will have a whiteboard. And the important part of this is going to be how do you order your ideas. And that means that there sometimes when you challenge this type of situations for the first time, you're going to be really messy. Like you're going to start, the interviewer will start to explaining the problem, and what you have to do is to start writing in the whiteboard key points, right? Like inputs and outputs and what are you're supposed to do. That's going to be a one part. The second part is going to be clarification on the problem, and the third part is going to be writing the code. And all these two parts, you could rely on the whiteboard, but if you do it in a messy way, you're going to lose control of your thoughts, and also the interviewer will not follow you that well, and may impact in your overall performance. So well, for this type of situations, what we recommend is like you start writing in paper without the help of any code interview some problems, so you can start remember the syntax and the structure of a program. Mm. Well, that might be one kind of interview. On-site interviews, most of the times, because you are there, they don't want you to lose time, so you are going to have multiple interviews with multiple people. So one kind of interview will be a client interview, but other kind of interview will be a system design interview. This could be, as you say, optional, because not a lot of interviewers do this, but like we could say like 1 out of 3 will do. And the system design will go more about technical knowledge. For example, I once get a problem of where they told me that they want to make a system that goes like, for example, if you know bit.ly, that shorten URLs. How will you do it? And you have to have, you're not going to write code unless you go to, unless the interviewer works the questions to that way, but most of the time you're going to need information about um, how does a system in the web works. Like if you're going to use databases, how do they work, how do they connect to other services, which will be the advantages or disadvantages of, for example, using our SQL or no SQL program, or what would be the advantages or disadvantages of maybe migrating your database to other data centers, so they will be closer or farther from other users. uh, how would you if you start small, how would you scale it? Which tools do you have to use? What kind of program design pattern are you going to use? A lot of information is going to be asked about this. um, Most important thing from this to nail this is like you understand more or less how does the projects that you like, for example VS Code or Windows Terminal, how do they are developed, how do they work, how do they scale. uh, know this kind of knowledge will help you to nail this kind of system design interviews. But they also can be another kind of system design interviews. They will maybe want you to translate something from the real world to code. Some other of my friends have been in an interview where they ask you like, well, imagine I would like to code um, the the behavior of an elevator. How would you do that? And that would make you go to design a system that simulates or relates this uh, behavior of the elevator. That goes more of the way that you will need to know about object orientation code patterns, or and if you will use a singleton, or maybe you will use a private for this or those fields, or public for those methods, and more of that stuff. And how would you scale that for maybe if you want to do more elevators or a city of elevators? And the questions can be a little weird, but they also they will just be focus on the idea that you will need to know how to develop a system, and that you have good how do you say, like mm, um, hábitos in English might be coding. Well, that you code in a clean way, and that you know like how to start, how to develop, how to finish a project. Yep. The peer
Well, I
programming.
want to add something about system
Okay.
design. Well, first, there is another, it's not really kind of interview, but well, it's between coding and system. I call it class interview, which is basically you need to code a class and the class needs to do this. Well, in that case, you only need to know a little bit about object-oriented programming. And I say that is between coding and system because it's between that two. For system design interviews, you also need to know about the specific topics. That kind of interviews are more common for full-time employees, or if you have behavioral of that. In this case, I think Gober is here. Gober has a kind of that interview in his interview with Microsoft.
Oh yeah, yeah. Do you want me like to talk more about this kind of interview?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Okay, so basically, I cannot give you like a full details of what happened in that interview, but basically they gave me like an example of something that I needed to implement. So I have like the brief description of what the system is going to do and how it's going to perform. Basically, I needed like to clarify well how many users are we going to serve, where is this going to be located, and after that, I needed like to put the pieces of the system like a blocks. So in here, I will recommend you that use the most simple way to describe your ideas. For example, rectangles and basic figures, because there's a standard for this kind of like diagrams. But maybe you will not learn through the process of preparing yourself for the interviews all the like syntax and standards of how to draw these diagrams, because the main part here is to both of you, your interviewer and you, to agree and understand what you're drawing, right? So I will encourage you to use only like rectangles, maybe flowcharts, and after that I had time to implement one of the pieces of the system that was going to be how to handle the database. And in here, I needed to use design patterns. So basically, I use a singleton to be able like to only have one instance per of my object, of my database object, through all the application that the user was like trying to use. So yeah, that's basically how like uh, a system design interview is going to be. But the coding part, maybe you're not going to touch it, because most of the time you're going to discuss like trade-offs of why are you choosing certain system, certain approach, how do you solution is going to scale. Yeah, that's all.
Well, as is, let's say, topic that is focused in some candidates, We don't touch it in this workshop, but if you are interested in learn, in fact, the Govery has a, well, we are working in a workshop focused in system design, but it's not finished yet. So if you're interested, you can send us a message and we can contact you to that workshop. Well, before continue, Andres, we have a questions. What can you do when you have issues understanding your interviewer because of his her accent? Will they get mad? Well,
Well, actually, I think like everyone here that has already nailed a coding interview has problem with that. Maybe you already have been struggling to understand me, or but yeah, they are not going to be mad if you say like, sorry, I could not understand you. Most of the time when I have faced that, I say like, oh, sorry, I could not understand you, could you write it in the code editor, or could you write for me? They are not going to be mad. They are just going to laugh and say like, hey, yeah, sure, and they are going to write it for you, and that way you are going to be able to read it instead of hear it, and that will be easy for you. But well, most the recommendation I will give you more, that's most important, is like to practice, right? Like if you practice a lot with people that are not native English speakers, you are going to train your ear to understand different accents. I have been lucky to talk with a lot of Indian guys, and well, they are really hard to understand at the first, but after some time, you get to see like this. He's trying to say this, and well, it's just kind of practice. But if you don't have time to practice, or at the end you really don't understand that your interviewer, the thing you could do is just ask him to write it in the coded editor, or if you're in an on-site interview, to write it in a piece of paper, right? Well, that might help you to understand.
yeah, you also can ask him to, well, his or her, to talk slower. I did in some of my interviews, or also only repeat the question. Usually, when you say, "Oh, could you repeat me?" They understand that you are not getting clear, so they try to speak lower. Is lower? Slower, sorry, or repeating with different words. So it's really useful. So usually, no, they don't get mad. You can continue.
Yes. Also, like when you get in the just like a parenthesis, when you get into your interview, get the idea that you're like trying to call with a friend, because most of the interviewers, they are really easygoing. They are just going to be a few cases when you get into a really a mad person, but most of the people, it's going to be really cool. So they just try to be nice and polite, and they will be also nice and polite with you. Well, the third on-site, it will be on-site interview type will be a pair programming. Peer programming is when you get when you sit with another person, and will just start. Let's say like we have this problem. How will you do it if we have to code it together? And it's like a coding with a partner, kind of. What they are going to be checking in this kind of situation is, how do you manage to work with another person, right? Like uh, if you get like feedback from the other person, if you do give feedback to that person the other way, like give and receive information, that's really important in this kind of situation. Like, okay, I think you're doing this wrong, we could do it this way, and the other guy is going to say you like, oh, okay, yeah, I think you're correct in this, in this, and this, but how about these other points? And discussing and getting into agreement to nail the program, or this program, would be the essential part of this. Like a cooperation and collaboration would be the most important things in pair programming. But also adding that you will need to know some computer science topics, right? Because if you don't, well, you're going to be in a bad situation. uh, well, the other one will be a code task. Let's like they are going to give you, like, for example, homework, to say something like, well, I will need you to do this kind of API that, well, will receive this information, and you have to process it in some way, in a way that you return this, or you save something in a database or something like that. And this might be something like really has a lot of mm, like condensation information. Like, it's really hard to code it at once. That that's going to be the reason that they're going to give you, like, more time to send it back to them. Well, this is kind of rare to be asked, but it could be asked, so be prepared. And finally, it's the behavioral launch, right? Because, as I told you, on the on-site interview, it's not going to be just one interview. It's going to be a lot of interviews, and they are going to give you time to eat. And this eat part may be also an opportunity to talk a little with you. You are maybe going to be sitting with the persons that has had interviewed you, or are you going to work with. And, well, it's going to be a great opportunity for them to know you better, right? To know more about that. Ask you, what would you do if some situations happens, or what are your ideas of some system design, or what are you going to do if X, Y, or Z situation happens in the team. And, well, just like to be prepared, like, yeah, they want you to talk, like, they don't want people that are like shy persons, because, well, it's really hard for the people to communicate in that way. Like, if you get in and you sit and you just eat yourself and don't say something like yes or no, or small answers will be bad, a red flag that, well, you're not really, they don't know if you are just shy, or you don't know, or maybe you are just like really angry person. And, well, most of these are really bad for development of software product in a team. So, yeah, in the behavioral launch, try to be really extrovert. Like, try your best to talk to other people, and to get your ideas outside, so they can know you better, and they can know that it will be fun, or it will be nice to work with you. Like, the purpose of this is to know how would you impact the team system, the um, the team relation, like, that you are not going to do something that is going to make angry the people angry, or that you are going to be a really helpful person inside the team.
Okay, so that's everything for the types of interview. If you have any question, you can write it. Now we will talk about the difference between the process in the companies. As Andres mentioned, some ones focus more in some things, and other ones in other ones, and they have different types of process. And Beto, are you here?
Yes.
Okay, so Beto will talk about this.
Okay. As Manuel mentioned, there are many companies, and each company has their own hiring processes, and we are going to talk about them. First of all, it depends. It depends first on the company, and second, it depends on the position that you are applying for. We're going to see first for Microsoft. The process is the following. You submit your application by the web page. They ask you personal data and to upload to your resume. Then they take some time to review your resume, and if everything goes well, then you will have your first interview. Nowadays, it is very difficult to mention if it is on site or if it is remote due to the COVID situation. But, well, the first interview almost is can be remote, and if everything goes well, again, you will have a final round. But this final round depends on the position. If you are applying for an internship, you will have 2 interviews, but if you're applying for a full-time, you will have 4 interviews.
Well,
And they will
I need
be,
to stop you. That's because of COVID situation. Usually you have 4 rounds. Doesn't matter if you are applying for internship or for full time.
oh, okay. Well, in COVID situation, that's how it works. But yes, if we're like in presence or peer-to-peer, then we will have 4 rounds for the interviews. Okay. So the next one is Facebook. And for Facebook is almost the same. You submit your resume to the recruiter. They then you have a resume review by Facebook. But well, they also have a platform where you upload your resume. So you can send it to the recruiter and you can upload it to the platform, and then you will have the review of the resume. And if everything goes well, then you will have your first technical phone interview. And again, it depends on the position. For the university grad or full time, you will have 4 rounds of on-site interview, or well, they can be remote. But if you are applying for an internship, they will be a second technical phone interview. Okay.
Well,
Following.
I will add something else. This is not always like mandatory. For example, in Microsoft, the first round, I have my first round on site in my school at ESCOM, but well, some people have it remote. In Facebook, more or less also the same. Um, some people that I know have the final round for an interposition on site, but in the Mexico's offices. And well, I think Gober's friend have the full-time interview on site, but in California, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, basically the stage, well, the steps were as usual, phone screen and code assignment, and after that, Facebook pay the all the documentation to be able like to fly him to the US to do the on-sites on the California campus. I guess the campus is in Mountain View. I'm not sure.
But well, this is not a mandatory, and this also depends because well, we are from Mexico, and Mexico has sometimes different
Processes.
process from yeah. So don't this is like the general view, but they can be a little bit different. Okay, we can continue.
Yeah. Okay. So the next one is Google, and well, the first is for the internship. You make your online assessment. They will give you some problems that you will need, that you will need to solve in an online IDI. Then you will have 2 45-minute phone interviews with a Google engineer. Hold a second, please. Okay. And then there's the committee review. They will check how it went in your interviews. Then your application is reviewed, and they have like a pool of projects, and you are selected for one of them, and then you will receive an offer. That well, if they have seen that your behavior, that your technical skills, that your coding interview went well, then they will bring you an offer, and you are the one who choose if you accept or not. And the following one is for the full time. It's almost the same. You make your online assessment. There are some problems that they give you to solve. Then you have your phone interviews. Then you'll have your on-site interviews. They are up to 5 of 45 minutes. each one. But well, it depends. Uh, it depends on the circumstances, but they are like you have one, then you have one. They are consecutively, and they can be the same day. Then there's the committee review. They review the interview feedback that your interviewers have. I don't know how to say it, but have wrote about you, and then you will receive an offer. I don't know if you want to add something about the Google process.
Yeah, for example, in the project search for the inter process, uh, when you are in the pool, let's say when you pass the committee review, you enter in the pool. Then the teams are looking for for interns, and they select you, and you have different situations. Some teams make you more interviews, behavioral, technical interviews, before extend you an offer. Other ones directly extend you the offer. It depends of the team. And you also have the opportunity to reject the offer. For example, if you are not comfortable with that team or someone's not went well, you can reject that offer and continue in the project search. What's the problem? You could be in well, if you reject some team, probably no other team could get you. So it's difficult if you decide to reject the offer. And well, for the full time, you can also the on-site interviews. You in normal situations usually are in US. Also, Google pays you well the visa and the flight to get there, etc. I think it's the only thing relevant. You can continue.
Okay. And the last one is for Amazon, the Amazon process. You make an online assessment, and they give you three different online assessments, but there is something different than the other one. It can be from debugging, from coding, work, and logical reasoning. There's not only for coding, so you will have different tasks to solve, and they are up to three. Then you will have the phone interview, and they can be from 1 to 3. It depends, but well, it's using Amazon Chime, their technology, and each interview will last. All the interviews will last from 45 to 60 minutes approximately. There's not a stipulated time, but well, there is almost the same for all of the companies. Um, and then you will have your on-site interview, and they are from 4 to 5 interviews, and they also include the launch interview. And well, if everything goes well, then you will receive an offer, and the recruiter will give you will contact you and say, okay, you have been cool at the coding and the on-site interviews. Then you receive an offer, and well, that's your decision. From that point, it's your decision to accept the offer. Also, there are many other companies. For example, Uber, Duolingo. There are many companies that you will search, and they have almost the same process. You make first an online assessment, then you will have some on-site or phone interviews, and if everything goes well, you receive an offer. But the two that I mentioned you that are Uber and Duolingo, they have internships and they have full-time positions. So if you want to search, I encourage you to do it because well, they are also well-known companies. And
Well,
well,
as
that
Beto said, well, First, before continue with that, something that is really important with Amazon is that they manage something called their leadership principles. Gober, do you remember how many are they? Like 10 or 11, something like that?
Yeah, I guess then this is important because in most of the Amazon's interviews, they are going to have like a specific interview that is going to be only about like these principles. So even if you're like really good at coding, you need also to I wouldn't say memorize, but at least know what is this about. So yeah, if you apply to Amazon, be prepared to learn about these 10 principles. I guess it's like a customer obsession and something like that.
Yeah, and in your interviews will also like, for example, in the behavioral interviews, they will make a questions like, if you are in this problem, how do you manage it? And you need to mention like these leadership principles, like, oh, using the principle. I don't remember the principles honestly. I didn't apply for Amazon. But if I'm in this problem, I need to using this principle, I will solve it this, and using this, I will solve it this, and something like that. So it's something really important that you need to be aware if you want to apply for to Amazon. I think that's the most difficult part. The other ones are like the usual ones, technical problems, and the other kind of interviews. So also, as Beto mentioned, there are many other companies. We focus only in these ones because are, let's say, the most popular ones. But if you have questions about any other company, you can Google it. You can also ask in our Discord or send us a message. We are aware of another process, not like real experience, but probably we are aware because we know people that applied, etc. So, for example, if you want to apply to Apple, that is another popular in US. That's different because they first look you for a team, and after that the team makes their own process. So let's say that it's like the inverse of Google. Like first you look for a team, and if you find a team, you start interviewing with that team. So the companies are different, but in general, as Beto said, they have the same process: online assessment, for interview, on-site interview, and offer. Okay, do you have any questions about that? About the process or, well, the types of interviews, etc.? Well, I think no, so let's move with the next part. So, some numbers. Okay, this is, well, as we mentioned, you can find a lot of information about the companies and these things in internet. This is an article that we get that we think is really interesting. I think I can show you the article. Let me check. Okay, did you see it, right? So this is the article. It's in the present, well, in the slide at it in the notes. So this article is a little bit old. It's for 2018, I think, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, 2018. But it says basically how is like interview at Amazon, Apple, Facebook, Google, and Microsoft, the most important ones. And well, they have like the process at overall and some numbers. We will focus only in two of them because we think are relevant. But if you want to check it, you can take a look. For me, was interesting. I hope for you also. So let's continue with this. Okay, so first of all, who is getting an interview? Here you have five different categories. The first one is applying online, like go to the careers website, send your resume, and wait for an answer. the second one is the referral. Well, okay, we have one question. Excuse me, the interviews are via Zoom or on-site in Mexico City? It depends of the company. Most of the companies doesn't use Zoom. They use their own technologies. For example, Microsoft use Teams, Facebook use Blue Jeans, Google use well, Google use phone like the normal phone, or in sometimes an internal tool. I don't remember the name.
Google Meet.
No, I think it's a variation of Google Meet. Okay, it's like Google Meet, but not exactly Google Meet. As far as I remember, I'm not totally sure. Amazon use Amazon Chime, which is another video conference tool. And well, as we told, some of them also make the on-site interviews in the offices at Mexico. Another ones flow you to the offices at United States. For example, as I told you, my first round at Microsoft was in my school at Mexico at SCOM. Oh, I think that's another thing that is important. The on-site interview has different tools, let's say, as Andres said. You can have a whiteboard, but you can have a whiteboard which could be 3 meters length, or a whiteboard that is only 1 meter length, for example. Or you could have only a piece of paper. So that also changed a little bit the interview. Uh, in my opinion, I prefer making an on-site interview than a online interview, because you can explain better, you can uh, use your hands, you can draw better. For example, if you have tried to explain a graph problem using the online editor, is really difficult. Also the three problems, but drawing is easier, at least in my opinion. So you have like advantage and disadvantage in some of them. Uh, the advantage in the online interview is that you could use the online editor, which have the syntax, etc. My final round at Microsoft was in his offices at Mexico City in Santa Fe. Also, I have, well, when I interview, they have been people from Guanajuato, I think. Other people goes to the offices at Monterrey, and Facebook more or less the same. Sometimes they do the interviews in the campus, especially when they do this kind of events, when they make like a conference, a webinar, etc. They use that time to make an interviews in the campus. And other times they make you the interviews in the offices at Mexico City. They are at Polanco, if I'm not wrong. And sometimes they got you to California. So it depends in the company. It depends of the, let's say, pues the facilities that they have in the well, in the city, and also with the school, because some schools doesn't allow to make interviews in the in their rooms. And well, I think that's all. Anyone wants to add something else?
Nope.
Okay, so I hope it's clear. If not, you can ask something else. If you have any other question, you can write it. You can talk here in at Discord. Doesn't matter if it's in English or Spanish. Also, if something is not clear, we know that our English is not perfect, so we can repeat it in Spanish. Okay, returning to the presentations. So the referral, we mentioned what is a referral, but only to clarify. When a people is working at the companies, they have the possibility to refer people. What is refer? Like a recommendation, like, okay, I think that this person is a really cool person. You need to hire it. And with that, they give you the referral, and you have this kind of, well, different kind of facilities. For example, as we mentioned, the first step in all the, well, in most of the companies is a automatic review by a bot of your resume. The referrals usually allows you to get a review by a real person. So that's the most usual facility that gives you the referral. Another companies, if some people give you a referral, they directly interview you. So let's say that you jump the step of the resume. That depends of the company, also who gives the referral, etc. So that's basically the referral. Then the recruiter. The companies have the recruiters, especially as we are from Mexico. The companies have a recruiter that is focused in Mexico or in Latam, well, Latin America. So these recruiters make events, and you can contact them. They are really closely, and if you can give your resume to the recruiter, and the recruiter usually will get you an interview, etc. That also depends on the company and the recruiter. For example, Microsoft and Facebook have dedicated recruiters, but Google and Amazon have like different recruiters. So if you apply to Google, you can have different recruiters. If you apply to Facebook, the recruiter is the same. I'm talking for from Mexico, from especially for software engineer, because it's our experience. So that's the recruiter. Well, the networking is, as we told you, contact people from LinkedIn, from Twitter, from Stack Overflow, from GitHub, uh, people that you know at a hackathon, etc. That's basically the networking. The networking could end in a referral or in a recruiter, etc. The other kind of applications is like the rest of them. It's not really, I think it's explained in the article. Let me check. Oops, this is not the article. Wait me a second. I only want to clarify because I think it's not specified. No, it's not specified, but well, you can assume that is everything else. Okay, so that's the categories. So returning to a presentation, who is getting an interview? As you could say, let's say that Amazon, well, this article is kind of tricky because it's focusing, well, they are numbers from people that is working in the companies, and some people working in that companies are from United States, from China, from Europe, etc. So it's not focused in Mexico. At Amazon, I think it's really tricky because if you are from Tecnológico de Monterrey, they have close contact with Amazon, so it's more easy get an interview if you're from that school. Uh, well, we have another question. Has any of you failed any subject at SCOM? Me not. Well, I think my last grade was 6, so no. I approved by, I'm not sure how to translate it, the panzazo. But well, I don't know if any of my other peers have failed.
Me, yes, physics in my first semester in school.
Okay, yeah, mathematics at first semester was the difficult one.
Very complicated.
Okay, returning to the presentation. If you apply from other schools, at least I applied once time, and I only receive a mail that, oh, thanks for applying, see you later. Uh, with better words, but was the essential. So it's kind of difficult to apply to Amazon in my opinion, because it's not really clear what do you need. Um, yeah, a little lot of context. Don't worry. Um, but you can try to apply it and get an interview. For example, we have like a meme with Facebook that Facebook gives you an interview for everything. Kind of, they are giving you an interviews in the box of cereal because, in my opinion, Facebook is the one that gives you interview more easily. With Microsoft, it's really difficult to get an interview applying online. Um, Microsoft is not really clear. Like Microsoft, for example, only recruit in a period of 2 or 3 months, from more or less August or September until October, November, more or less. So during this period of time, they recruit. The rest of the year, like the application is open, but they ignore you. So because of this, they receive a lot of applications during that time, and I suppose that they not review all of them deeply, and that's why some of the applications lose. Like I know some of my friends applied in the first year for an explorer position, and like they have been OMI awarded or really high average in the high school, really high average at SCOM, and they only receive, okay, thanks for application, see you later. So it's not really clear. So with Microsoft applying online, I think it's really difficult. With Google, you can apply online, and they give you, I think, to most of the people, the online assessment. And well, after the online assessment is where they start giving being more complicated. And with with Apple, I don't have experience. Gober, did you try to apply it? Oh no, it was to GitHub. Never mind.
Yeah. Also, I'm not sure what is the state of the art talking about GitHub because when I apply, they literally send me an email saying that we don't hire Mexicans because they are like out of our how can I say power? Well, they didn't have the legal department to hire Mexicans, but it is very strange because I have friends that work at GitHub that are Mexican, so I'm not sure what's going on here. But yeah, at least in 2018 they weren't hiring Mexicans. Maybe the politics in the company changed because, as far as you know, the company was acquired by Microsoft. So I'm not sure.
Okay, returning to Apple, I know a guy in my during my internship at Facebook that was from Technology Monterrey that have had an internship at Apple. So I think it's not impossible. So I only don't know a lot of the company. But you have this reference. If you apply online, you can get an answer. With Microsoft, I think, in my opinion, the most difficult part is getting an interview. Um, because it's really difficult and it's not really clear. And for example, at Facebook, you can apply 2 or 3 times. Well, at least two times each year. With Google, I think in his webpage, you need to wait 90 days to apply again. So you can apply multiple times each year. But with Microsoft, you have only one opportunity each year, and it's difficult. Okay, so what's the other important part here? The average number of interviews before offer. Uh, well, as you can see, for example, in Amazon, it's not really difficult, like 1 or 2 times to get an offer. As we told you, well, if you know the leadership principles from Amazon, you have like, I don't know, 40% of the process. Um, so I think that's the most difficult part at Amazon, as far as I have read or people have told me. I think, in my opinion, the most difficult ones are Facebook and Google. Like Facebook really focus in the technical part, Facebook, it's weird that they ask you about behavioral or something like that. For example, I have applied. Well, I have had like 10 interviews with Facebook, probably more. And only once they ask me about my resume. So Facebook is more focused in the technical part, and they ask you, I don't know, 2, 3 problems each interview. So take that in consideration. Google is difficult because they ask you, uh, I think, most difficult topics, in my opinion, like 3 or graphs or also system design questions, something like that. So I think that's because it's more difficult. Microsoft also, I think, is not, well, at least for me, the most difficult part was getting an interview. Is the final boss, but some people here also got rejected. We are not sure because it's like a Lima, but the interviews are 70% lucky in the problem, in the topic, in the humor. Is humor of the interviewer, like uh, el estado de ánimo of your interviewer. Mood, yeah, that's the word. The mood of your interviewer. So that's why always exists a lucky factor, but you can reduce it and you can get an interview and, well, hopefully an offer. So for example, to Microsoft, I apply only once, but to Facebook, I got my offer at my fourth try. To Google, I have tried 2 times and I never get accept. To Amazon, only once. To Twitter, 3 times. And, well, that's my experience. So doesn't matter. There is like this phrase that says you have the no, you only can get the yes. So you try, and we are here trying to helping you. For example, Gober, you get your offer at the first time at your first
Yes.
interview.
Yeah.
Okay, is
At
it?
Microsoft, but I
Oh,
failed at Facebook. Yeah, Facebook didn't say anything about my process. It was like kind of weird because at least they send you a reject email, but in my case, I didn't get I didn't even get the reject email, so that's so sad.
F. We have another friend that failed once time at Facebook, and during 1 year they study a lot and practice a lot, and he got accepted at Facebook, Microsoft, and Google in the, well, in 3 months, for example. So it's only you need to practice. All the people can apply. I think Eric also get rejected sometimes, like me. Eric, are you here? Well, I think he's not here, but, well, uh, most of us have.
In Microsoft, I get the offer in
Eric,
my
are you here?
first time, and for Facebook, in
Well, I think he's not
I
here, but, well, uh, most of us have.
okay, I think I have a problems with my.
Okay, but, well, some of us have been rejected a lot of times, so don't. As we mentioned, you don't need to be a genius to apply and to get an offer. It's only practice. And for example, Gover also start practicing a lot and reading a lot and studying a lot, and that's why he got his offer. So uh, don't worry about that and continue practicing. Don't worry if you get rejected. The companies doesn't have this record, so when you apply again, you are like a fresh start. So they won't consider, oh, he got rejected 3 times before. We want to reject him again. That doesn't happen in these companies. Um, okay, we have a couple of questions. Samuel asks, if you want to create a mobile apps, where do you recommend me to apply? Um, I'm not totally sure because, well, all of the companies have mobile teams, but I don't know anyone that have work in that teams.
I can like answer that question. It
Yeah, go ahead.
depends. For example, I'm not sure if you are like or you would like to apply for a full-time opportunity, but if your case is an internship, uh, the company it depends on the company. They are going to match you with a team that fits for you. For example, in Facebook, I guess you can choose your team. Microsoft, you don't have that opportunity, and they are going to put you in the areas where they think that you can fit, and also the areas that are hiring. And I'm not sure about. I guess again, Google can you choose like different teams and apply for them, but all the perspective changes if you're applying for a full-time position, because for a full-time position you apply for that role directly, right? So all the well, if you're like trying to develop mobile applications, the first question that I would like to say is, which do you prefer, like Swift or Kotlin? Because as far as you know, there are like two major platforms, like iOS and Android. So yeah, go ahead and like try to define your own stack, because the interviews are going to be super different from the iOS team and from the Android team. So yeah, it depends.
And also take in consideration, where as Gober said, you can apply for positions that are exactly for mobile teams. I have seen some of that job offers in the page, so you can look for them. You can also ask to us. Um, but also take in consideration that you can choose, well, not choose, but you can switch between teams in the companies. When you switch between teams, sometimes they make you another round of interviews, but are like more easier. Or sometimes they only ask you, "Oh, do you know these technologies?" And you say, "Oh, yeah." So go ahead, come with us. So switching between teams is more easier than enter to the company externally. So once you are in the company, you can switch to that kind of positions if you want, if you are not accepted directly in that kind of teams or in that specific teams. For example, Gover knows that some, let's say, popular person at Microsoft have been working as a software engineer and changed to quantic computation. What was the role?
Oh yeah, I guess he works for uh, quantum something.
So yeah, you can change between teams and doesn't matter if it's not exactly related to that. For example, if you are working as a software engineer, you can change to a team that is working in machine learning. Obviously, you need to prove that you are or you are capable to work in that, but you can change between teams.
Yeah, exactly. That is the main advantage of working at like very big companies, like those that we were mentioning, because for example, you can like try different parts of your career. And yeah, you can go to development, to DevOps, to machine learning, to management, to PM. So that's one of the main advantages.
Yeah. So well, that's at least in my in my point of view, the main reason why I chose to go to these companies because I'm a person that gets bored of what is doing really frequently. Like for example, when I start my career, I want to be in database, then I want to be in a front end, then I want to be in back end. Now I want to study data science. So because of that, I know that I'm a person that gets bored really quickly. And being in these companies, you can switch between teams when you get bored of your current job. Okay. Anyone wants to add something else about this? No? Okay. The other question is, what are the most important factors for them to accept you? Okay, first of all, obviously the technical part, like you know what are you doing and you can answer the problem, but that's not always true. Because another important part is the think aloud or your thinking process. Uh, why I mentioned this because I remember that when I was studying to apply to the companies, one person gives you a talk and he mentioned like he didn't answer the problem well. I don't remember if you well, later talk about this, Gover, but well, the person mentioned that he didn't answer the problem well, so they they get a wrong answer and retry and get another wrong answer, and at the end they didn't finish the problem well, but he mentioned that he got accept because all the time was explaining his thinking process, why he chose that decision, why don't consider something else, etc. So I think the most important part, at least in my opinion, is the think aloud or your thinking process, that you can share your ideas with others. Because if you, uh, at least it's difficult when you get, for example, the person answered the problem but doesn't say anything. I have made a lot of mock interviews, and it's difficult when you get that kind of persons because you are not sure, especially when they are online. You are not sure if the people is really really smart or the people only types for the problem in internet. I have had both cases, and sometimes it's difficult notice that difference between being a smart people or being a cheater. So I think that's why it's really important the think aloud process, or well, the think aloud in general, because you are trying. These problems are not made to be solved in that period of time. Usually, you have only 30 minutes, and you have one or two problems, and that's why the interviewer gives you help and gives you the clarifications, etc. If you need to discover that kind of clarification, probably you will delay more. So that's why you need to ask to the interviewer, ask to the opinion for the interviewer, say, oh, do you think this is fine? Do you think I'm going in the right way? So at least that's my opinion. I don't know if some of my partners want to add something else.
No, I guess that's all.
Okay, so that's a factor. But there is also another, especially right now, another factors that affect, for example, right now with the COVID, for example, Facebook stopped the recruiting process for the full-time employees. So if you get reject, that could also affect if you can have problems with the visa or with your studies or with your um, with your degree, etc. That's another kind of factors that could affect, but is a few cases. I hope that answered your questions. Do you have any other question? No. Well, that's the last slide of the presentation. As I told you, you have more information about this kind of numbers in the article, but we focus only in these two because we think are really relevant, like how is getting an interview and how many tries do you need before an offer. Okay, that's another question. Have you seen the movie Internship? No. In one of my mock interviews, someone told me about that movie, but I haven't seen. Any one of you have seen the movie?
No, no, I'm so sorry.
I think I've seen it. It's with this guy with a funny nose, I think, and it's like they are having an interview, like they are seller people, and they got fired from their previous work, and after that they um, saw that intern people are getting paid a lot of money, so they want to be an intern at Google. I think that's the movie. I don't know if that's the movie you are talking about, Jose. But yeah, like it's funny because I think it's pretty much like the it's not quite experience because you are not like doing treasure hunting all the time. But yeah, like the movie shows, there are a lot of activities you have to do with all the you're not calling all the time. You have to get socializing with other interns. Like um, I don't know how to put an example, but they are like playing games with other interns. So yeah, it's funny. It's funny.
We can have later a movie night to see that movie.
It could be an English how do you community
And
like this English club we have in English
Oh,
participant.
oh yeah, it could be an activity for club. But we are doing
to that club.
changes to that club. Yeah.
Well, we can consider if you want to
When we
organize a well night movie to see that. Okay, do you have any other question?
I think they yes. Octavio has another question or yes
No, I think the yes is for
movie.
the movie night.
That's the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, they have some delay.
Oh, sorry.
I'm not sure. Can we get like uh, banned if if we share the movie?
Maybe in Discord no. Like we can keep it secret in Discord.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
but
keep
with
it
the
secret.
people with Facebook
Yeah,
and
like that's
and
a good
YouTube.
reason for all the people to get into Discord. So you can come and join us in this movie night.
Let me send the link again. Yeah, because I don't want to get
Yeah,
a
I
ban.
will say that the movie is like a pretty good idea how an internship is. Yeah, it's really fun. You should join because also you are going to meet a lot of people. Well, maybe not in this situation we are in COVID, but most people that are applying today might have the opportunity to go on inside internship. So yeah, guys, apply as much as you can because other thing maybe I could say like as Manuel I was rejected too many times by Facebook and yeah the thing that was most important it was to practice and uh, do it all the time. Yeah, like keep doing it, keep applying, don't surrender.
We got what we said is called wait, I forgot the name. I'm not sure how to translate it. Internship por lástima. That's the offer that we receive.
Sorrow internship.
Okay, we will check if we can share the movie. Probably we will only share it at Discord. I'm not totally sure. I don't want to get banned in Facebook and YouTube.
Yeah. Don't stream on Facebook a movie. Don't do that. I'm so
Well,
sorry.
I mean, if we get, let's say, delete the post, I think it's not really a problem. If we get like a bad note in the page, that could be a problem. We need to check. But well, if you don't have more questions, that's all for now. We will see you tomorrow. Thanks to everyone, and sorry for for the yesterday problem. If you want to note, well, I make the transmission, but the uh, trans- what is the translation of transformador? Transformator? I don't think so.
Relay. I'm not sure.
Well, the transformador in my street explode the Sunday, so I have 24 hours without energy here. That's why we need to cancel the yesterday lesson. But we will see you tomorrow. We will start with the interview slides. And well, thanks everyone to attend. And that's all for now. See you.
See you guys.